Hi, I'm Dr. Laurie Rush, the U.S. Army archaeologist here at Fort Drum, New York. And today I'm standing on one of my very most favorite locations here at Fort Drum. We're on a beautiful small bluff looking out over a beaver meadow, and on the far side of the meadow in the 1500s was once a Haundenosaunee village with at least 6 long houses. And so this is a place on Fort Drum that we protect very carefully, and we also welcome our Indigenous Nation partners, the Oneida Indian Nation, the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, and the Onondaga Nation at any time when they would like to visit their ancestors here. Village life must have been very active and social. The long houses are organized by the mothers' families, and so grandmother and her daughters and their husbands and children would live together in these houses. We have examples of the pottery and some of the stone tools that the Haudenosaunee people have left behind at this site. And one of the great privileges of being the archaeologist at Fort Drum has been the opportunity to work directly with the nation partners as they help us take the very best care of the ancestral places all across Fort Drum. So the villagers left behind some broken pieces of pottery, and we think that the designs in the pottery are handed from mother to daughter, and so you can see the very characteristic rim edge on this pot with the stripes that could be made with an antler comb. And in fact, there was a burial found near Ogdensburg where there was a Haudenosaunee woman who was actually buried with some pottery that she had made and along with the antler comb that she had used to decorate the pots with. Here at Fort Drum, we try not to disturb any of the ancestral places, and we share the belief of the sacredness of all human burials, and we would never disturb one. We also have found stone tools, and this is a typical projectile point left behind by Haudenosaunee people. And we have actually a quarry here on Fort Drum where the material for the stone can be collected and then turned into tools. We also have this extraordinary object that came from the village site. And you can see by this special, what we call an ear spool or earring on this depicted individual, that this portrays an individual who was probably originally from Ohio and the American Midwest. And we know that our indigenous people traveled back and forth using the waterways. And so we have ties to people of Ohio and the Midwest, and we find their stone tools here, and we have found this face, which was actually with the Haudenosaunee site. And what it also tells us is that just like everyone is fascinated with the past, the indigenous people of New York are also fascinated with their own past. And so 500 years ago, somebody found and collected or handed on in their family this unique object, and it remained in the village to be found by archaeologists hundreds of years later. I would like to encourage all of the viewers to go back to the websites that are hosted by our Indian Nation partners, the Oneida Indian Nation, the Onondaga Nation, and the St. Regis Mohawk tribe. They will do a beautiful job of sharing with you the stories of their history, and they are much better at informing you than I could ever be. But I do want to share with you today this beautiful wampum belt that was made for me by Anthony Gagne, a faith keeper of the Onondaga Nation. This belt is called the Two-Row Belt, and it is a treaty between the Haudenosaunee people and early European settlers of the region. And The Onondaga website will tell you about this belt being an agreement between the Haudenosaunee people and the Dutch. And it depicts two ships sailing down two independent waterways. And essentially, it's an agreement not to interfere in each other's politics. And I really like that concept. I think the idea of letting people follow their own path without interfering with each other is a lesson that benefits all of us. And the other fascinating aspect about wampum and treaty belts is that they serve as a mnemonic device. And so when the keepers of the knowledge and the history have the belt in their hands, they're able to tell the story to their children and grandchildren so that history is never lost as long as the belts are in the possession of the makers and keepers of the history.